So this is the Becky video, and there is Becky, who was killed by the Illuminati, with Taylor being the genetically engineered Xena LaVey egg and Anton LaVey Church of Satan's sperm. So they're not. Taylor Swift is not the clone of Xena LaVey. Xena LaVey is the actual mother. And they made two of them, identical twins. So this is Becky. So in the last video we used the Wheel of Time, balefire, which of course was caused by me being plagiarized by a manuscript I sent to America, which was plagiarized by Robert Jordan via Morton Janklow, the agent I sent it to, which was great because of course I wanted that to happen. So Chaos would create for me new source, which are all the powers and potentials from my book. And all the people that read the book, touch the Robert Jordan book, watch the Amazon Wheel of Time, are in those publishing houses, etc., are all Omega Hellized, and their eternal torture powers all the Wheel of Time powers, which are my IOU. So I've got Chaos to build for me all these new powers, which didn't exist previous. So we're adding new source, and one of the new source bits is balefire, where you erase a person so they never were born or erased from reality. All powered by Chaos and the eternal suffering of Robert Jordan, Morton Janklow, and of course who they're so similar to, Americans and Jews. So it's wonderful, which meant that Becky being killed. There, picture of my friend Becky. She used to be a happy, popular girl until one night she snorted marijuana at a party. She died instantly. Yeah, so as I say, I've had lots of marijuana and worse, and I didn't die instantly. Please don't do marijuana. No, it's the most dangerous drug out there. No, please don't wind up like Becky. And of course we've got Taylor wearing, no, it's Becky, because it's true. That was never Taylor Swift since I've done the ritual. It was always Becky. When Becky was killed, basically putting some sort of drug, fentanyl, oxycodone, whatever. There are plenty of drugs about. The CIA specializes in killer drugs. And of course, once Taylor became famous, they had to get rid of this one, because having two identical Taylors would really point the direction in she was created in a CIA lab to allow Anton LaVey's bloodline, the bloodline of Satan. And of course, it's inevitable that Lilith, the mother of all demons, would inhabit the vessel, or one or the other. And of course, since Lilith requires worship and loads of power, that was Taylor, and once we've got one, two's a crowd. So off with Becky. But since Taylor was erased from reality, Taylor never existed, and Becky was in both bodies. One body operated by a Becky consciousness. If you don't believe me, here she is, revealing, no, it's Becky. You can't make this up, can you? Now with the erasure of Taylor Swift, what happened when Becky was killed? Well, Becky simply had another vessel. And of course, none of this happened, because it's like Schrödinger's cat, none of this timeline change existed. So Taylor Swift existed and Becky was dead until, of course, the Psy Lord, Tim Refat, the Necronancer, which is the main power of Sauron, brought her back to life. And we see that the timeline change, every major timeline change needs an assassination. So, for example, the assassination of John F. Kennedy changed the timeline to the Illuminati timeline, and presidents after that were simply glove puppets. And when Nixon tried to get out of the box, they got rid of him with Watergate, using a Jewish reporter and an FBI insider to bring him down. Shades of Donald Trump there. So as in the Kalki videos, of which my intrepid cameraman says there are 9, I do go on. I can talk the hind legs off a donkey, but you really must appreciate I spend every waking hour researching these videos, and I don't have time for anything else. As I say, it takes me days and days and days, as my cameraman will attest, that I'm buried on the internet, in books, remotely sensing galore, to do even a few minutes of these videos. So I do believe that anyone who watches the videos should send me loads of money on top of anything else, just for my research, because being a multi-millionaire, I need more money. So the cameraman, almost never sees me because I'm too busy researching these videos. Am I not, cameraman?
You are.
I am. Anyway, back to reality. We've got Kalki on his horse, and as we have documented, Kalki's horse is Lilith, aka Taylor Swift. And we showed you the video of her on the white horse wielding her weapon. But we've just got rid of the Taylor Swift and Lilith, because Lilith ceased to exist and never existed when she got the Balefire. So you might ask, if Lilith never existed, how come the Source's scout could get erased from existence by the Source? Because if it's the Source, it's indestructible. So with the Becky Taylor Swift ritual, we get around the problem of the Source getting changed by observing chaos, because of course chaos accepts in the Timarifa IOU, the Psy Lord's IOU, omega-helization to the Source level, and in its suffering downloads into the Source observation of chaos. So chaos gets changed by the Source because of its own free will. It accepts eternal torture, omega-helization, which of course is the complete sourcing of chaos, where chaos suffers for its unrighteousness. So in the Puranas, Kalki is depicted as the avatar who will rejuvenate existence by ending the darkest period of Adama, unrighteousness, and restoring Dharma, righteousness. He is described as riding a white horse, which is where the pale horse of Armageddon, death and destruction comes from. See, even the TV agrees with me. There we go. And restoring righteousness. He is described as riding a white horse named Devadatta and wielding a fiery sword. Fire, of course, light, the fifth dimension, the portrayal of Kalki, and of course, my ritual sword I was using for the ending of Taylor Swift, the ritual dagger. So, of course, if Lilith was never the Source's scout and never existed because she was eliminated by the Psi Lord's balefire, gained from the eternal suffering of Robert Jordan, Morton Janklow, and all self-similar to him, which of course is another Jew boy here. Jeremiah, the plagiarist, just like Robert Jordan, and thief Morton Janklow, we can see that the Source had it all under control, unintended consequences, and that this character here was vital, absolutely vital, and by trying to steal me, he tried to steal the Source, so therefore the Source could observe chaos, because this thing was in the zero-sum game with yours truly, and thanks to the CIA, all of chaos has been Omega Hellized, observed by the Source, and dumped into Omega Hell, so the Source never had to go into chaos to observe it. Chaos came to the Source and was eternally tortured, and in that process, the act of observation was done by chaos of itself, which of course is part of the torture, and given to the Source. So this thing, by trying to steal the Source, allowed the Source to steal chaos. So thanks to the CIA, the eternal torture of the megaverse of chaos was completed. And we can see now why his ex-girlfriend and lieutenant have revealed he's just a thief, plagiarist, narcissist, and a nasty piece of work. Which of course is what the CIA would have you believe is the real Psi Lord. And of course, according to MI5 and the Judases, Tim Rifat's unwell. Don't speak to him. He can't remotely view. And he's just a simple drug dealer. That Baldrick cunning plan didn't work out well for MI5 and the British deep state. Did it, cameraman?
Most certainly did.
Most certainly did not. So as you can see, why I was wittering on about this nasty piece of work is that he allowed the Source to Omega Hellize chaos. So Lilith never existed, Lilith was never needed, because chaos stole Lilith. And in the process, the end of the game was the extermination of Lilith, with Taylor Swift never existing. And of course the timeline change, so that all of chaos, that's all the aliens, all the megaverse, so we're talking not a timeline change in the multiverse, but a timeline change in the megaverse, which is the fiber bundle of all the multiverses, has dropped into the Omega pathway, which I talk about on my MP3s, which are super hardcore. If you think my Rumble videos are hardcore, now the MP3s available from Mike at $100 of Empires and $150 for non-vampires, or whatever price Mike decides he wants. So contact him. Are super hardcore and describe the Omega timeline, which is what we've dropped into. And of course we need death to drop us into a timeline, but the death of the source drops us into the Omega timeline. Stolen, because remember, Lilith would die eventually when she goes to the end of the Feigenbaum period doubling, and all the sourceness is lost, which would allow chaos then to produce a creation that was source-like and would not be exterminated by hidden components like Lucifer turning into Amalek. So as you can see, the source sending a scout to chaos would be suicide, because if you kill part of the source and make it chaotic, then it's self-similar and you kill all the source. So Lilith was the death sentence for the source. But of course, unintended consequences. You control the butterfly effect so that this creature, this nasty piece of work according to his girlfriend and his lieutenant, a narcissistic, lying piece of shit, funded by the CIA, the Jewish version of Tim Rifat, allowed the source to trick chaos, because of course the Jews and the CIA and all the unrighteous accepted the theft of yours truly's powers, but since they lost, they accepted the IOU, which of course was the death of Lilith and being the scout for the source. So in their eternal torture in the Omega timeline, where the source didn't die, but they accept source-like death to produce the Omega timeline, their eternal torture is the scouting process, and in their eternal torture at source level, they allow the source, because they've got up to source level, they've gone up the Feigenbaum period doubling to the top, so the source can see them. So they come right up to the source, so the source can fully observe them, and then they. So here's a shout out to the CIA, the criminally insane agency, and they make Baldrick look like a super genius. And here's Baldrick, who make the CIA and MI5 look imbecilic, and he's a super genius. When you compare Baldrick to the CIA and MI5.
Okay, let's fill in this MP application form. Name? Baldrick. First name?
I'm not sure.
You must have some idea.
Well, it might be sod off. When I used to play in the gutter, I used to say to the other snipes, "Hello, my name's Baldrick," and they'd say, "Yes, we know, sod off, Baldrick."
All right. Mr. S. Baldrick.
So, we've now got a new CIA head to be voted for, pushed in, and Donald Trump, the last American president, should of course scour the world for a Baldrick to take over the CIA, because of course they're all run by criminal imbeciles, and Baldrick is the last hope. A complete moron, but a super genius for the CIA, and likewise for MI5, MI6, and the rest of the Western intelligence agencies, which of course is an oxymoron.
I was supposed to be sent away, but they forgot to come and get me. I was a functioning alcoholic till nobody noticed when I knew
So we've got the fortnight video, and remember in Kabbalah, 14, the 7 double letters of Kabbalah, which is the exchange ritual. That's exchanging good stuff for bad stuff. So the fortnight video is the exchange ritual. So if you look in A.E. Waite's Holy Kabbalah at the back in the appendix, you'll see the 7 good things exchanged with the 7 bad things. So all of Jewish magic is taking all the good stuff from the Goyim and giving it to the Jews and dumping their bad stuff into the Goyim. So this entire video is dumping all the bad stuff from Becky into Taylor. And it starts, of course, with Taylor chained up in Omega Hell. That's why it's upside down. See, it's upside down. Look. She's chained up in the bed. So this is Taylor in her Omega Hell prison, where she's eternally tortured prior to her never existing with the Balefire. So you get cake and eat it. You can torture Taylor eternally and get all the energy out of her, but with the Balefire she ceases to exist, so her hellish existence in Omega Hell, where she's being tortured up to source level, vanishes. This is new sourceness, so remember what we said with the source: go into chaos, observe chaos, and make sure that chaos can never steal the source. Done by Jeremiah Schwartzy, and of course the death of Becky. And then of course the next step is to Omega Hellize chaos to the source level again, not for observation, but make it a standing wave, because if you do it twice you can redouble it. So like with electromagnetism, the electric component dies, propagates a magnetic component. E propagates B. B dies, magnetic component, propagates E, and you get light travelling on forever. So with this you can get eternal self-propagating torture. So of course you need 2 components. The first component, Taylor, has reached the 0 point, died, completely gone, never existed. E component gone. The B component, Becky, is then manifested by Taylor's annihilation. But prior to her being bale-fired, Taylor existed, and she was in Omega Hell, being Omega Hellized, because of course the Source's scout Lilith died in Becky. Paradox energy, you can have a cake and eat it. So Lilith died, the Source never had to lose itself to observe, and up to Becky's death, and beyond to when I did the ritual, Lilith died in Becky because she jumped from Taylor to Becky. But Taylor was still in existence, this is a good thing, until 2025, when we did the video. So of course you can run a paradox engine on chaos to control chaos by the source, which I've done. And Taylor has been screaming and suffering in Omega Hell because of course with the destruction of Lilith in Becky, then of course Taylor and all the other recipients of Lilith have to suffer to source omega level for the source, so the source could be aware of chaos without changing, but chaos changed to become source-like, and the only way it can become source-like is to have source-like eternal torture, explained in my really evil MP3s. Torture them, they drive them mad, torture them, drive them mad, but always make them sane again because they're source and never can be destroyed, so they can never escape torture by going mad, as in the Brazil film. So you can see the beauty of source technology. This is Taylor suffering eternally at source level because she was Lilith, and all the other chaotic entities, the Jew god Adonai, Sabaoth, Yahweh, Tetragrammaton, Elohim, the Jews, the Goyim, all of chaos, are all eternally suffering at source level and can't escape. But when I erased Taylor Swift with the Balefire, we got to the new one, the other Paradox engine, Omega timeline, two of them. You might have seen the bifurcation on Feigenbaum periodically. So of course, once I do the Balefire, source gets all the outputs, so the source is complete. Observing chaos without getting changed, we get past that problem. But when she doesn't exist, with the Balefire, we change the Becky. Becky then takes over Taylor Swift. So Taylor was Becky. And always was Becky from conception. So when they made the two twins, they were both one person. How can you do that? Well, I've just explained body swapping, taking over bodies. You can do and be whoever you want to be. So Becky could be Taylor from a conception, simply doing the ritual of takeover.
It has been a masterful movement on the chessboard, performed by the death-defier as the woman in the church. She has used Carol's energy body and yours to lift off, to break away from her moorings. She took you up on your offer of free energy. What he was saying had no meaning to me. Apparently, it meant a great deal to his two companions. They became immensely agitated. Addressing them, Don Juan explained that the death defier and the woman in the church were different expressions of the same energy. The woman in the church was the more powerful and complex of the two. Upon taking control, she made use of Carol Tiggs's energy body in some obscure, ominous fashion congruous with the old sorcerer's machinations, and created the Carol Tiggs of the hotel, a Carol Tiggs of sheer intent. Don Juan added that Carol and the woman may have arrived at some sort of energetic agreement during their meeting. At that instant, a thought seemed to find its way to Don Juan. He stared at his two companions, unbelievingly. Their eyes darted around, going from one to the other. I was sure they were not merely looking for agreement, for they seemed to have realized something in unison. All our speculations are useless, Don Juan said in a quiet, even tone. I believe there is no longer any Carol Tiggs. There isn't any woman in the church. Both have merged and flown away on the wings of intent, I believe. Forward. The reason the Carol Tiggs of the hotel was so worried about her appearance was because she was the woman in the church making you dream a Carol Tiggs of another kind, an infinitely more powerful Carol Tiggs. Don't you remember what she said? Dream your intent of me, intend me forward. What does this mean, Don Juan? I asked, stunned. It means that the Death Defier has seen her total way out. She has caught a ride with you. Your fate is her fate. Meaning what, Don Juan? Meaning that if you reach freedom, so will she. How is she going to do that? Through Carol Tiggs. But don't worry about Carol. He said this before I voiced my apprehension. She's capable of that maneuver, and much more. Immensities were piling up on me. I already felt their crushing weight. I had a moment of lucidity and asked Don Juan, what's going to be the outcome of all this? He didn't answer. He gazed at me, scanning me from head to toe. Then he slowly and deliberately said, the Death Defier's gift consists of endless dreaming possibilities. One of them was your dream of Carol Tiggs in another time, in another world. A more vast world, open-ended, a world where the impossible might even be feasible. The implication was not only that you will live those possibilities, but that one day you will comprehend them. He stood up, and we started to walk in silence toward his house. My thoughts began to race wildly. They weren't thoughts, actually, but images. A mixture of memories of the woman in the church and of Carol Tiggs talking to me in the darkness in the dream hotel room. A couple of times I was near to condensing those images into a feeling of my usual self, but I had to give it up. I had no energy for such a task. Before we arrived at the house, Don Juan stopped walking and faced me. He again scrutinized me carefully, as if he were looking for signs in my body. I then felt obliged to set him straight on a subject I believed he was deadly wrong about. I was with the real Carol Tiggs at the hotel, I said. For a moment, I myself believed she was the Death Defier, but after careful evaluation, I can't hold on to that belief. She was Carol. In some obscure, awesome way, she was at the hotel as I was there at the hotel myself. Of course she was Carol, Don Juan agreed, but not the Carol you and I know. This one was a dream Carol. I've told you, a Carol made out of pure intent. You helped the woman in the church spin that dream. Her art was to make that dream an all-inclusive reality. The art of the old sorcerers, the most frightening thing there is. I told you that you were going to get the crowning lesson in dreaming, didn't I? What do you think happened to Carol Tiggs? I asked. Carol Tiggs is gone, he replied. But someday you will find the new Carol Tiggs, the one in the dream hotel room. What do you mean she's gone? She's gone from the world, he said. I felt a surge of nervousness cut through my solar plexus. I was awakening. The awareness of myself had started to become familiar to me, but I was not yet fully in control of it. It had begun, though, to break through the fog of the dream. It had begun as a mixture of not knowing what was going on and the foreboding sensation that the incommensurable was just around the corner. I must have had an expression of disbelief because Don Juan added in a forceful tone, "This is dreaming. You should know by now that its transactions are final. Carol Tiggs is gone." But where do you think she went, Don Juan? Wherever the sorcerers of antiquity went. I told you that the Death Defier's gift was endless dreaming possibilities. You didn't want anything concrete, so the woman in the church gave you an abstract gift. The possibility of flying on the wings of intent.
And this is where it came from. 1993, Carlos Castaneda, The Art of Dreaming. And there's the YouTube. person, and you can listen to the entire book. But what we've seen there is that the tenant, the old seer, who's at least 10,000 years old, who taught the Nagwal Julian, who of course got me as his Nagwal to teach me all this stuff in the second attention. Taught me how to body swap, and here we see the tenant body swapping, where she, because she is a transsexual, loves being a female, born as a male, invert the energy body inside, put it inside out, turn into a female. So if a male points inwards the assemblage point, just invert the entire energy body to point outwards, and you become a true female. So it's the holy grail for transsexuals. And of course, people like myself who are well into lesbian sex as a female, as is the Nagwal Julian. Carol Tiggs is the Nagwal woman, a 4-lobe, but unfortunately Castaneda was 3-lobed, so he ended the whole escapade, because the only thing 3-lobes can do is end things. But here we see if Castaneda had been a 4-lobed, then the tenant could have body swapped and become Carol Tiggs, the Nagwal woman, and entered into this new age which I've brought about. Unfortunately, Castaneda was a 3-lobed and ended the entire line of Don Juan. And if you want to look at the dire ending of Carlos Castaneda and his women, you go to the BBC, he'll give you a glooting rendition of their dire ending. 3-lobes kill things off. But we can see here that the highest power of the old seers who've been teaching me is body swapping. So we can see that Becky could intend herself as Taylor, and when she was killed by the Illuminati, being the spare, she became Taylor. And how would she, of course, know how to do this procedure? Well, of course, she'd have to become 5-dimensional and be taught all of this stuff by yours truly in the future. Because once you're 5-dimensional, you can change the past. The past is totally malleable. Hence the Elohim's war with me for control over the 5th dimension. So Becky could then take over Taylor from her conception, just as the tenant's other body, the tenant made 2 bodies, remember? The male one and the female one, which of course is body doubling. The physics of this is unknown to the Stone Age scum we call physicists, but I've worked out all the field equations for it, and once you understand the mathematical physics, yep, then of course you need the energy, yep. What are the energies for it? Torsionics, scalionics, and leptionics. They're the name of the game. Why would the aliens be mining the human race for torsionics, scalionics, and leptionics? So they could do all of this reality change stuff. When I read the book way back in 1993, I didn't understand the last bit of the book at all. But now, of course, I understand it fully, so one can see it takes decades to understand what I'm going on about. So if you find what I'm talking about a bit of a my-def expletive, then join the club. So did I. But now, of course, Taylor never existed, which happened January 2025 when we did the video, and Becky body doubled her and was both of her, and when she died in Becky, she lived in Taylor, hence the picture where she's actually telling you, no, I'm Becky. So as you can see, this human cockroach was trying to do the same thing. He, of course, knows nothing about it, but the alien masters of the American filth know all about it. So, the making a slave of the Rothschilds, get all my powers doing this, becoming me, and me, of course, being erased of my own free will and eternally tortured, just like Taylor was, in Omega Hell, in the Elon Musk facility, as we've seen at the start of the Fortnite video, was the plan for yours truly.